As a PM, if you want to break into product management, you should understand the customer, understand where the product is needed. So we typically call it as a three C's, which is company, customer, and competition. A lot of times people say that okay, it's a free product, but you are essentially paying it with time. So it's either you're paying in dollars or you're paying in time, but you're still paying for it. So similarly for product management, understanding customer and building customer empathy is very, very critical. Some people get it, some people don't get it, even if there are researches and all. The interviews that are done in product management realm versus the job, the work that you will do once you've landed the job are probably like two distant things.
According to an article by the Wall Street Journal, 7% of Harvard Business School graduates took jobs as product managers. Not just that, Glassdoor, which analyzed more than 40,000 salaries, put the average base pay of a product manager at approximately $1,08,992. Doesn't that make you wonder what does it take to break into product management? I'm your host Anushka, and in this episode, we'll talk about breaking into project management. And we have with us Sumit. Sumit, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here because we have a lot of questions for you when it comes to product management. And the very first and natural question is so, why consider a career in product management?
Product management of late has kind of become one of the hottest career options. And the stats from the B schools kind of say the same. One of the reasons, of course, is that you get to play the central role in the organization. You are kind of the hero of the show. You're running around trying to define what the company wants to do and build for the customers. While at the same time, of course, the numbers that you draw as a salary are pretty lucrative. Uh, but that's true for other roles as well. So I'm not like data science is another very important stream. But product management particularly is very interesting because you can see direct impact with the customers. What you're releasing, it goes to the customer. That high of creating something and seeing people use it, and then the joy that you get out of it is phenomenal. The dopamine effect is pretty legit, true. So that's I think one of the reasons why people are flocking towards product management and for the right reasons.
Now that we know that there's a lot of demand when it comes to, product management, and then there are a lot of people also interested in this area, what do you think would be the ways somebody who wants to enter this field can stand out when it comes to a job hunt?
Quite a few different tracks, and thanks for that question. It's a great question there. A lot of a lot of people from different walks of life are actually looking forward to get into product management. We have folks from quality, which is tech QA, marketing, digital marketing, um, architects, business analysts, all the folks who would want to break into product management. Couple of things which people would want to understand here is that there are different nuances to a product management role when it comes to defining the role itself on the basis of where the organization is. For a 0 to 1 organization, the skill set that is required for a product management is more frugal, more hands on, more uh, go getter kind of thing. Somebody who is more street smart will get things done. That's the typical persona of a PM that I would typically hire in a 0 to 1 role. For somebody like a Microsoft, for a FANG company or a Netflix, Apple, the roles of a product management are more defined and nuanced around the processes. People who are then able to scale up the process to the multi-million can follow the whole process to the T. They keep themselves, they're still motivated even if the product is delayed by 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So different nuances, but couple of things, the principles remain the same. As a PM, if you want to break into product management, you should understand the customer, understand where the product is needed. So we typically call it as a three C's, which is company, customer, and competition. Why should you build it? Who should you build it for? And what is the competition doing? So if you kind of have those three nuances around what your competition is doing, and for why you should be building it, and if the customer is really going to use it or pay for it, right? A lot of times people say that okay, it's a free product, but you are essentially paying it with time. So it's either you're paying in dollars or you're paying in time, but you're still paying for it. having those nuances, and of course some bit of some technical understanding around how architectures of a typical app works, are a few things that are kind of needed to break into product management. A great book there is Decode and Conquer by Lewis Lynn. I think that's the Bible for product management or breaking into interviews. So if anyone who's looking forward to break in, those five pillars is what you should definitely have in your profile.
Mhm. So there's a lot of conversation around when it comes to leveraging LinkedIn or leveraging social media in general. So, what do you views around networking through social media sites when it comes to, job hunt for this aspect especially?
The two aspects to finding a job, one is networking and then of course the applying. The application part of it, when you're actually applying it, there is this whole application tracker system. Your resume will probably not get shortlisted if you don't have the right keywords that are listed there, and that's typically how they do it, which is probably one of the worst ways of finding a job, let alone product management. That's a different issue altogether, but just finding job via LinkedIn ATS is a bad thing. What you should do is go find out what the job is, who the recruiter is, the poster is, network with the people in that company, and then ask them for a referral. So that's the other aspect of it. What you mentioned very importantly, a very interesting point that you said is about um, creating that optics on social media, right? Now, if you're not creating decent optics on social media, then probably the network is not going to be as strong. I recently realized I've crossed 39,000 followers. But a lot of that did not happen because I was actively networking. That actually happened because I was actively posting about product management and engaging in discussions about product management. And that's
Mm-hmm,
how people
mm-hmm,
kind of started to reach out to me. A lot of my jobs came to me via social media, be it Clubhouse, be it LinkedIn, be it a couple of others. But
mm-hmm,
the moat essentially remains is that you need to be seen as someone who's a thought leader in your area who kind of understands the nuances, and there is a way in which you need to demonstrate it. For anyone breaking into product management, I strongly recommend building a product management portfolio. So if you have a product management portfolio, then it would then it would make more sense for you to create that right kind of optics when you're actually sending out the right messages, and then people will start to see, oh, you kind of understand. Particularly true for people who are not coming from product management background. If you're coming from design, how do you understand customer? If you're coming from technology, how do you understand customer and mobile apps work? How does these technology work? How are these technologies impacting customers' life? Most importantly, if you're posting about those aspects, then of course there is a lot that the social media can really do for you. Just blank copy pasting links and posting on LinkedIn, that won't help, unfortunately.
So Sumit, you mentioned briefly mentioned some of the skills that somebody can think of while applying when it comes to a job hunt. But just to get back to that question, what are some of the key skills, soft skills and that sort of a thing that you feel a product manager should either already have, or these are the skills that they can, cultivate once they make up their mind about getting into this career field?
One of the most important skill for a PM is to understand customer. Um, there are all these marketing courses that we've done in the B schools, Potter's Five Forces and stuff that we use. Understanding customer, I still feel like really getting down to getting to know your customer is still an art, but the science part of it is still can be developed. So, but doing an MBA, you can probably do a crash course or do a marketing MBA that really helps you. You can read up a lot of books about around psychology, around marketing frameworks, around how do you do your market research. All of those things kind of help you. You can even do some bit of user research courses to understand how to conduct a user research and focus group discussions. But really, I mean, those are great tools. I'm not saying that they're bad tools. They're amazing tools. But really, are you developing the art part of understanding a human is something which either you have it, are you're born with it or you're not born with it. When people are creative or they're not creative, you can't really make someone to learn guitar and then play music on it. People will probably learn guitar, they'll probably play some covers, but are you really playing music is a nuance that is that's the science part of it, right? Or the art part of it. So similarly for product management, understanding customer and building customer empathy is very, very critical. Some
Mm-hmm.
people get it, some people don't get it, even if there are researches and all. From a soft skill point, I think that is one aspect which I particularly hone in when I'm interviewing people to just understand, okay, tell me a difficult situation that you faced and how did you go about it. And if the person is only throwing me frameworks, then clearly he's not the guy. So that's something which is important as a PM. It's very, very critical because you also need to understand colors. You need to understand user journeys. If the whole nuance around chromatic colors, monochromatic colors, warm colors, cool colors, how does it impact people's life? How do people really read a particular image or a screen? All of those are very, very critical pieces in product management journey. Unfortunately, a lot is not talked about these days in the PM realm because PMs are going a little distant from design as
Mm-hmm.
the organizations are scaling up. But I hope that's kind of is done more often than not in a PM forum.
That's great to know. I think in the same journey, if we go a bit forward, and now we're at the stage where that person has landed a job, you know, how would you recommend, or what would your strategy be when it comes to tackling the first 6 months as a PM?
The interviews that are done in product management realm versus the job, the work that you will do once you've landed the job are probably like two distant things. These two don't join at the hip at all. The So a lot of people do are able to crack their interviews nicely, but they really fumble when they land into the job. And a product management's role, the first month or three are like drinking directly from the fire hose. There's tons of information which comes through. And it's not easy. It is not easy for PMs. And I've been talking to a lot of folks around, from Netflix or from Facebook, even Microsoft or Zomato, Swiggy's also. The first 6 months are like a make or a break situation for a lot of PMs. Either they leave the job or they flourish beyond that. Things that somebody should definitely be doing in the first 3 months is get to know your stakeholders, really get to know your stakeholders, spend as much time with your internal stakeholders as well as your external stakeholders, get to know your customers. Very, very importantly, how they use your product is extremely critical. Like I was in Make My Trip, we were building some solutions around mobile app, and that was a time what we realized that a lot of people do their window shopping around travel, the time when they used to commute from their home to office and back. That is a time when they research. The bookings does not happen. So we see a huge peak around data, like the data around that particular time, but a lot of people would come down. And that's an amazing insight, right? You're building a product for people to really book, but they're just using it for research. They're not really doing the bookings. So how your customer essentially ends up using your product is something which you don't know. So getting to know your customer, getting to know your internal stakeholders, getting to know what's happening in the competition, what are the campaigns that people are doing, how is the top of the funnel looking, like what data trends are we talking about. Eating in data day in and day out will become a part of your your daily day life. You'll start your day with data, you'll end your day with data, and somewhere between you'll do some product thinking because you'll have some opportunity somewhere, some breakthroughs. So um, you know just just get your grounds absolutely covered, be on top of all the nuances, all the data trends, why the whats and the hows of the product should be at the back of your hand. You should know what do you want to take as initiatives, which ones are doing well, which ones failed in the past. You should have a thorough understanding of your domain of the product that you're coming in for.
Hmm.
That
I think this is where the three C's that you mentioned earlier would fit in, because I found that part very interesting when you mentioned it there.
correct. So company is all about internal stakeholder, what
Hmm.
scaled, what worked, what campaigns. Customer is all about building customer empathy. How is he using? When he using? What is the average order value? What is the tracking value? What is your book look to book ratios? There's tons of ratios that we typically live on. So what are those ratios looking like? What are the conversion rates looking like? What are success rates looking like? Etc. Etc. That's about customer, and everything about
Mm-hmm.
competition. What are the initiatives that they're doing? What is the market share? Where do you stand right now? How far is your customer looking like? How many markets
Mm-hmm.
are they live in? Where versus where you are live in? There are just 360-degree of each one of those three C's, right? Um, which also makes the job very, very fascinating, because you're just understanding. It's like a crash course in MBA,
Mm-hmm.
in 6 months, and you're basically chewing just tons of those concepts all over again.
That's great. I think this episode would be very informative for the listeners out there. And thank you once more, Sumit, for giving us your time and coming and doing this episode with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of TopConnect. If you have any questions related to the topic, feel free to check out the links in the description. Also, as promised, we have something unique for you. If you want to win a one-on-one call with Sumit, all you need to do is talk about the top 3 insights you've taken away from this episode on your social media. Don't forget to tag TopPay and Sumit. If you're listening to this on Spotify, feel free to let us know what you'd want us to talk about next. I'm Anushka, and you were listening to Top Connect, an educational podcast by TopMate, hosted and produced by me.